Welcome, champions, to the next overview and tier list ranking on any new or reworked champion for the current event active for idle champions. This is where we'll break down their mechanics and place them in my overall tier list for every champion in the game. And take a second to look at my kitty, as I remind those who are curious, I stream on Twitch the same day I post these videos. So drop on in there and say hi. Today we're taking a look at what very well may be the last addition to the Absolute Adversaries, Halsin, the neutral good Wood Elf Druid in Seat 3, that serves the group as a support, healing, and speed champion. You might be thinking, wait a minute, didn't we just get a member of the AA in that seat? Yes we did, Minthara. As you'll see while we break down Halsin, they're meant to be a yin and yang to each other, relying on whether or not you take the Dark Urge good or evil. Essentially, they are the antithesis of one another. Let's take a look at his attacks, starting with Thorn Whip, his magical primary attack. He'll target the enemy with the most health and pull them toward the formation a short distance.
Get over here!
His ultimate will transform him into his bear form for 20 seconds, changing his base attack to the melee hit Bear Strike. Like I said, he is the antithesis of Minthara, and that's even reflected in his formation abilities. Where Minthara builds up strife stacks through evil champions, Halsin builds up harmony stacks through good champions. With Archdruid of the Emerald Grove, he gains those harmony stacks for each good champion in the formation, including himself. Halsin will increase the damage of these champions for each harmony stack, stacking multiplicatively. The equipment does scale the pre-stack of this ability, so it scales decently. His speed mechanic comes in the form of Call to Action, where in non-boss areas, every time the area quest progresses, there is a chance that you will just immediately complete the quest and move on to the next area. The maximum chance is a base of 20%, though there are feats to increase this and he has equipment as well. But the chance is greatly reduced and only increases up to the maximum as you complete more of the area's progress. This is kind of a strange one. Ultimately, if you run a team of the Absolute Adversaries and are able to use Lae'zel, this ability is borderline pointless. If you are running an up-to-date speed formation, it's also useless. It has potential to help in a scenario where you otherwise don't have access to speed mechanics because of restrictions, but ultimately we're looking at a lackluster speed mechanic in a game full of important ones. He is a healer through his formation ability, Nature's Revival, where he heals champions affected by his Archdruid of the Emerald Grove every second. There is nothing special about this heal, and is the standard number for healers in this game, so nothing big here. He also has Vow of Harmony, like Minthara's Oath of Vengeance, where he provides additional benefits to his own kit the more harmony stacks you have. At 3+ stacks, he will increase the healing of Nature's Revival by 20% for each harmony stack, but only stacking additively. At 5+, he will increase the effect of Call to Action by 50%. At 7+ stacks, when a champion uses an ultimate attack, it recharges with 10% of the cooldown already done. At 9+, he increases the base value of Archdruid of Emerald Grove by 400%. His specialization picks are also similar to Minthara to a degree. With Harbinger of the Wilds, he will also gain harmony stacks for each neutral champion on the good/evil axis slotted in your formation. Sage of the Transformed will increase the number of Ceramorphosis stacks the party has by 40%. Rounded down, if you are running 8 Absolute Adversaries, Valentine and Halsin, he will increase it by 3. Even if you replaced Valentine with a Ceramorphosis feat user, it'll still be 3 as it's rounded down. Then Protector of the Grove increases the effect of Archdruid of the Emerald Grove by your maximum chance of Call to Action triggering. Ultimately, if you're running the Absolute Adversaries, the second, the Ceramorphosis increase, will be your pick. If you're not, and in need of more harmony stacks, take the first. And if you're running a group full of good champions and not the Absolute Adversaries, take the last. His equipment is decent, having 2 all-champion damage, 1 for Archdruid of the Emerald Grove, which is pre-stack, 1 for Call to Action, and 1 for his Nature's Revival, then ultimate cooldown. His feats are also decent, having some pre-stack buffs to Archdruid of the Emerald Grove, ways to scale up his call to action, and a feat to affect the pre-stack of Vow of Harmony, specifically the 9+ in increasing the base value of Archdruid of the Emerald Grove. His achievement is fairly simple and will just require time. You will need to complete 5,000 areas with his Harmony stacks at 9+. So either have a good formation lined up, or throw on his neutral specialization. You can even almost make the absolute adversaries work with that. And if you do, you'll need to replace maybe Jaheira with Lae'zel or Astarion. With both of them, it's too many evil. All of his variants force him in the formation, able to be moved but not removed. The first will spawn 1 to 2 goblins with each wave, which do not count for gold or progress, and will only allow you to use good or neutral champions. To lean into qualifying for his Archdruid of Emerald Grove. The second will make the weather foggy, and in non-boss areas, quest requirements are halved. But there is a 50% chance that a defeated enemy does not drop quest items nor count toward quest progress. This is meant to lean into his own speed mechanic, but again, other methods will probably work better, particularly Lae'zel, or a traditional speed team, or if you've got Virgil's speed buff from the last event. But since he's there anyway, you might see his speed mechanic have some use here as well. The third will make champions not recover health when changing areas. And if they die, they will only resurrect when changing areas at half health. This is meant to lean into his healing, but his healing is mediocre like most healers, and honestly this shouldn't halt your progress you're otherwise able to make anyway, generally speaking. Overall, these variants are very completable up to your personal state of progress within the game. His availability is decent, but not the best. He's locked out of Strahd because of his low intelligence, and locked out of the Dexterity Day 1 trial. Not too bad. Now the question is Halsin versus Minthara. They're in the same seat, and both are ultimately intended for the absolute adversaries. Looking at it that way, it's hard in my opinion to recommend Halsin over Minthara. Minthara is a tank, which the AA is lacking, and one that doesn't require any special formation placement. Her damage buffing will be better as she has a flat buff on top of her pre-stack debuff, which scales the same as Halsin's single buff. If you want to take a look at availability, she qualifies for all day ones, and they both can't be used for Strahd. Sure, there will be some variants where he is available over her and vice versa, but Minthara has uses outside of the AA as well. And while his specialization gives potentially 3 Ceramorphosis, as it's rounded down, this can go below 3 when restrictions hit. Where Minthara innately has 1 and her specialization gives 2, so she'll always be at 3. Still, he's not bad, but when he's the yin to Minthara's yang, I'm thinking yang's looking better. All this to say, I think on the old tier list, I'm placing him below the other absolute adversaries in the A-. Now let's take a look at this event's flex options. It's kind of a mixed bag this time around. If you are working on the absolute adversaries in any way, Shadowheart stands out among the rest as the best option to focus on. If you're a Warduke DPS, obviously you want to snag that boy and boost those item levels. After that, it's really Warden is alright after the rework, but is likely to see little play being in that seat. Dirge is there, other great buffers are there. But if you're looking for an alright pick for a Cass Evil crew, Warden isn't a terrible option, but certainly not ideal. Regis can reach some good numbers, but not necessarily top of the line by today's standards, but works well with the Companions of the Hall, who are great picks if you're looking to push through Icewind Dale with Wolfgar pulling them in. Kroll used to be a king, but he's been outclassed in recent years. And with a lot of people pulling away from Azaka farming, especially with Makos' increased gold farm potential by using Sergeant Nox, Kroll isn't seeing as much use these days. Fun debuffs and alright numbers, but his seat has some good choices now, and if you're a Cass user, he shares that seat, as he also does with Shadowheart for AA users, so that's a no-go. Darius and Lucius are both DPS who are not really contending with the big boys, or even a lot of the mediocre boys. You'd only focus on them if for some reason you like them and are leveling them for fun. Talon's only real use these days is to slow enemies, and Yorvin will barely see use in any way. He has some shenanigans with an Artemis team, in making Artemis borderline immortal depending on the formation, but offers so little in damage buffing it's not really worth it. Thanks for checking in, and as you can see we're back to the old format. We'll see how long I can keep it up for. Hit that like, sub, and bell for me, and always do that one thing you do. Have a hell of a time out there, champion.